everybody, and welcome to the Tea and the Butty podcast with me, Dominic.
And me, Erica.
And on today's program, we're going to be talking about British culture and American culture, and does it go both ways?
But I really can't keep up this voice for a whole 30 minutes, so let's stop, shall we?
Let's raise our voices, along with our glasses, to American and British culture. And because in Britain, it goes, it's very saturated, American culture. You've got it on TV, films and everything, and people are saying Americanisms, and they're making references to American culture.
Yeah.
And, I think it's pretty saturated. I think if you went to Britain and you asked, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a British, of an American, ism that would be prevalent. I don't know. Yeah, I'd have to think, of an Americanism. If you asked a British person, chances are they'd know what you were talking about.
If you quoted Friends.
Quoted Friends, for instance, yes.
Yeah, the British persons, if you did the first part of the quote.
That could be subjective, though, because it's, they may not be a fan of Friends, and they may be like, don't know what you're talking about there. What are you talking about? Pivot. I don't know what you mean by that. Pivot what?
Maybe, but...
That's a Friends reference. For everybody who watches Friends.
Doesn't watch Friends, you mean?
Who doesn't watch Friends?
But it doesn't go both ways. It's not the same over here.
Well,
yeah, I was really surprised the first time I went to Britain that everywhere I looked there was something American, whether it was in a store or on the street or in the house on the television. It's like American culture is very prevalent in Britain.
Yeah.
And it's not over here. Well, that depends on who you ask, actually.
It does depend on who you ask, but it's also, it's very interesting, because of that Quora article that we were reading when I did some research.
Right.
My only bit of research I'll ever do for Tea and a Buddy. It required a lot of brain power. It was very distressing. Yeah,
Quora, if you don't know, it's a site like Reddit.
Yeah.
Only the people on there seem to be more thoughtful.
More thoughtful in their answers. And
yeah.
Not so flippant like me.
Yeah. So people can go on and ask a question and then just wait for people's replies. There's also that Yahoo Answers.
Yeah, that's a little bit more down the ladder.
Kiddish. Yeah.
A little bit more kiddish.
Yeah.
That's a good word, kiddish.
No, Quora is really impressive, actually. Reddit is fun to read because people ask a question and then everybody's answers are really flippant and stupid and sarcastic.
Sarcastic and
and it's funny.
Jokey.
And it's funny. You can go down the thread and have a good laugh when you're on Reddit. But Quora is I don't know. And I don't really know the site actually, except for when I am looking up something in particular and inevitably somebody else has asked the same question, and it's
a similar one,
yeah, and it's usually on that site. So I haven't really looked into exactly what Quora is, what else it entails besides the question and answer portion, or maybe that's all there is to the site. I'm not sure, but anyway, I digress. Dominic was doing some research for this topic, and we looked up, and somebody asked the question, why isn't there more British culture in America? Why isn't it more just everywhere like it is in Britain with American culture?
And the answer was, yeah, there is. What are you talking about, mate?
Everybody's answer.
Everybody answers have you not looked? It's oh, what language do you speak? And it's
what's the name of the language you speak?
What is the name of the language you speak? It's English, so there you go. And it's no, it's not, that's not as cut and dried. It's not what he meant.
And that's not what I mean when we're discussing
it. Because they went on to list oh, look, you've got...
the way your government works and all this kind of historical stuff, which... It's obvious, we were colonized by Britain, so all of our stuff comes from Britain.
I mean, the
way
original
back.
13 colonies up in the
Yes.
northeast, yeah.
Yeah. It comes from Britain way back. Yes, we get that. Most Americans understand that. We get all of that. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the first time I went to Britain and everywhere I looked, there was something American. It's not like that over here with British stuff.
No.
You can't go in, well, let's say our local grocery store here is H-E-B. It's just a Texas chain, and it mostly just sort of central Texas and south of that. There's not too many even North Texas. But anyway, you can't go in H-E-B and see British brands on the shelves. You just don't.
Yeah, I mean, you won't see McCain's. I don't think you have McCain's over here, do you?
Or McCoy's.
Or
Crisps.
McCoy's Crisps, or Walker's even, which is basically Lay's anyway.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's an Americanization thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because, you know, you're talking about TV and all that, and, you know, they were talking about, well, what are you talking about? You've got Harry Potter, and you've got Doctor Who, and you've got Downton Abbey, and you've got the royal family, Meghan Markle and all that, you know, it's just like...
there's a whole genre of music, the British
Invasion, the
bands.
Beatles, the Rolling Stones. It's like, well, yeah, that is part of British culture, but it's also not. It's like, it's been kind of like, you know, it's just
worldwide.
like, it's worldwide.
All of that stuff is worldwide. Harry Potter, the Beatles,
It's worldwide, yeah.
Yeah.
What we're talking about, though, is, yeah, like British brands. And, you know, even TV coming over here, most of the sitcoms from the past 40 years have been Americanized versions of British shows.
Yeah, they brought that up in the topic, in the core topic, the thread that we were looking at. People were saying, oh, well, all of your reality shows come from Britain. Okay, yes, if you look it up and look into it, you can see, oh, yes, this originated in Britain. But we don't know that. We're not told that before the show starts. We're not like, oh, this is a British show. Ta-da! You know, it's like, it's renamed, it's rebranded, there's different judges, whatever. You know, it's not, we don't know.
Yeah, you just don't know. But in Britain, you do know, you know, because it's coming direct from the source.
Yeah.
It's like Friends.
And it'll come back on in Britain.
And
the American version will air in Britain.
Yes.
Even though you have the British version, which is the original.
Yeah.
They'll still air the American version in
Yes.
Britain, which they would not do over here. We don't ever see the British version of the show
Except
that we're
on
watching.
PBS, maybe.
Yeah.
And nobody really watches PBS.
No, I'll tell you what. In America,
I mean, people do, obviously. Because
people do.
but
Yes.
It's like not like the networks like ABC or NBC or CBS.
PBS has always been seen as like for the educated. You know what I mean? I don't want to like simplify it, but it's like it's too high tone, it's too highbrow, like it's not like you have to be a bit nerdy, a bit geeky to like tune into PBS. You know what I mean? Like maybe you watch
Same thing with NPR. It's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same way
Yeah.
with NPR.
I think that's the general feeling. Now I watch PBS, I listen to NPR. I'm a nerd. You know, whatever.
Call me a nerd if you wish.
But I think the general American who's not like into British culture, besides the huge things like Harry Potter or whatever, you know, I think in that thread they mentioned Game of Thrones, which is a little bit iffy because Game of Thrones was written by
an American guy.
by an American.
George R. R. Martin.
Yeah, so it's like just
But
because
it's like
the TV show is like all British cast mostly.
It's mostly British cast. And it's like...
Is it British, you know?
And Westeros is pretty much Britain.
Yeah.
In the fictionalized world, you know, you've got the South and you've got the North.
Yeah.
And you've got like what's beyond the wall and all that, you know, but that's Game of Thrones. I digress. You know?
Right. Right. So you have Game of Thrones on HBO. You do get a lot of British shows on PBS. You do get a lot of them, but it's not necessarily the hit shows. I mean, on PBS, they'll show like things for an older audience, I would say a lot of the times, like Death in Paradise, which we watch just for something to watch, but I think the general British public is just like, oh, Death in Paradise, what a like naff.
It's very dire. I've heard it's very dire, you know. I've heard it's very dire. I mean, that's going to be another episode of our podcast is talking about the shows in Britain, the police shows that we have.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy. I mean, over here, I suppose you have like Law and Order and CSI and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And Columbo, which I think Columbo is pretty much what kicked off the whole... Columbo's huge in Britain.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it was, anyway.
But see, this is the thing. This is the
thing,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Okay, when Dominic and I first started talking, he was reading me something. You were looking at Facebook or MySpace or something, somebody that you knew. And they had a status, watching my wife and kids, man.
That was Nicholas Jenkins,
like,
if he's
we
listening.
We were on the phone or whatever. And
watching my wife and kids, man.
And he was just reading through statuses that he was looking at, whatever. He was just reading them out loud to me, whatever. Our conversations were very interesting, as you can see.
You know, we'd run out of things to talk about by that point. And that was like the first week. It was just like, and so what happened was, you know, I was just reading, I was like, and she asked, oh, what are you doing? And I said, oh, I'm on the internet. And I was just like, oh, just looking at this. It's an old schoolmate of mine, Nicholas Jenkins, just put up, watching my wife and kids, man.
Yeah.
And you were like,
my
what?
wife and kids airs in Britain? Like, what?
That like, yeah, I know. I used to watch it, too.
And it wasn't even that popular of a show over here. And that's what I'm talking about.
It's so funny because Full House was popular over here, right?
Uh-huh.
Never saw an episode of it before I came over here.
Yeah, you said you never saw an episode of Seinfeld either, though, and people do watch it.
Yeah, it was on Channel 4. Maybe Full House was on Channel 4 as well. I didn't watch too much Channel 4.
Yeah.
Except when it was something that I really wanted to watch, or someone said, oh, Father Ted, or whatever, you know, it was something that I was tuned into.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'd never flick it on and watch it, you know, really.
Yeah.
But apparently that's where all the American stuff started coming in the 80s.
I wonder if you guys didn't have more or don't have more American shows just because of the whole Hollywood aspect. Because Hollywood is over here. So it's like we're the ones who make
movies
and make movies. Maybe that's why you get more, because guys, they get shows that I have never seen over here, like My Wife and Kids, Mun, for example.
Mun is just a Welsh word. It's actually just My Wife and Kids.
Yes. What's the other one with you're always making fun of it because she's skinny and he's big and fat. It's another, like, just family sitcom.
What, King of Queens?
Not King of Queens. The
Last
one
Man
that
Standing?
has... Oh, no. What is her name? She's like, Southern. She's from the South.
Not Last Man Standing. What's it called? Still Standing.
Still Standing. I think that's it. I don't know. I never watched it over here, but...
Well, no, I never watched it over in Britain either. I didn't see it come on.
I know, but the fact that you guys get shows that are like... you know, does anybody really watch that in America even?
We got 2.5 Men, I know that. Because, I mean...
That was popular over here at first, though, so that doesn't quite count. I'm talking about shows that come on over here because we have a lot of TV in America. We have a load of channels, we have a load of shows, and I would say the majority of it, most people don't watch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's some shows that are really big, like The Big Bang Theory. I wouldn't have been surprised that you got The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Because that was a popular show. I wasn't surprised to hear that you had Friends, you know, any of that kind of stuff. But we have all these little other shows that are just like in between that have like a handful of people who watch them, and you guys get them too.
America just sells everything to everyone.
I know,
you know,
but why doesn't it work the other way is what I don't understand.
It's just basically, I think it's probably because there's an element over here that controls the media that's a little bit of scared of outside influence.
I'm not talking about just television though. We'll delve more into
the TV is what births the culture, really, at the end of the day. I think, you know, it's like nobody would be saying, you know, quoting Friends or anything like that, or just making it into the lexicon.
Winter is coming.
Winter is coming without the TV, you know, or the movies, you know.
Right.
And, you know, over here, there's just not enough British stuff. I mean, nobody really quotes Harry Potter in their day-to-day life. I mean, unless you're a real big Harry Potter fan.
Who doesn't quote Harry Potter?
You know,
in
like
their day-to-day life? No, tell me who is not quoting Harry Potter.
I can think of 2 people who aren't. Who aren't doing it.
I need to No.
A few people have never heard of Harry Potter, actually. But yeah, it's what I'm saying is people, start saying things because they saw it on TV.
Right.
In Britain, for example, I'm just going firmly on British culture here, people started saying plonker because of Only Fools and Horses.
Oh, right, yeah.
And people start, it was around before that, but it was it was popularized again to call it that, or, you Wally or whatever, and Cushty and Lovely Jubbly.
Yeah.
It was all Del Boy's phrases that were thing, but of course Only Fools and Horses is unknown over here. They could not remake that show.
Yeah.
They have tried many times, but it's failed.
Okay, so we'll talk more
about that in a later episode.
The TV series.
Yeah.
Yeah. But aside from television...
There's music too, yeah.
Okay.
The Beatles.
I want to say...
Rolling
the
Stones.
Beatles, yeah. All the British invasion bands.
Adele, and up to date.
Okay,
Adele, Ed Sheeran,
yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Up to date. Today bands. Adele, Ed Sheeran... if you just listen to the radio, which I don't know how many people listen to the radio now.
All we hear is Radio Gaga, another British band.
But I think if you're just listening to the radio, again, we don't know who's British and who's not. They all sound American when you're listening to them, And
it's
on the very off chance.
There's a lot of British actors who are playing Americans.
Yes.
And it's funny.
We don't know they're British.
And you don't know that. But funnily enough, when we're watching a British show like Poirot or something like that, and there's someone who's playing an American in it, you're like, she's not American. She's British playing an American.
Almost always.
Because, it's one of those generic, hello, how are you? Accents.
Yes, just like that.
Just like that. It's just I don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Poirot.
Yes.
It's very she's not American, he's not American.
Yeah, I almost always get that right.
But over here, it's I don't know.
We can't, we don't know, yeah.
We don't know.
And that was part of that Quora topic. Somebody said, Samuel L. Jackson went on a rant about it or something.
About black British actors getting all the roles in films over here.
They hire British actors because they think that they're better because they're classically trained. And maybe the classically trained aspect is why they're able to do an American accent better than...
There's also the money factor as well. They're cheap as chips.
Although, no, because that's what we're talking about, isn't it? We're talking about British people doing American accents like in Poirot or something like that. And they're crap usually. But if they come over here and they're doing an American accent, you almost always can't tell.
It's because there's enough other Americans in the cast to cover it up.
And maybe they're able to...
Because with other British people in the cast and, you're the only one who's playing an American, then it's going to sound out of place, isn't it? You know?
And I don't know if it's covering it up maybe, or maybe they're like me, and if you're hearing it constantly, you can do it a bit better than just pulling it out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's easier to... You have actual Americans right there telling you how to pronounce something better, than you previously were. Yeah. So there's that. I mean, the people in that article were going, oh, there's British actors everywhere, in America. This show. It's they're all doing American accents, though. We don't know that they're British.
Yeah, and, it's like David Oyelowo, I think his name is, and Chiwetel Ejiofor, Idris Elba. These are all black actors.
Oh yeah. You had Dominic West.
West. You've got a bunch of people over here that you might not think are British until they do an interview and they're just talking in their regular accent.
I had no idea that guy. Remember when we used to watch Chicago Fire? One of the main guys, the blonde guy. I can't even remember his name now because we haven't watched it for a few seasons. He's Australian. Yeah. I didn't know. He sounded very Midwestern
and there you
Chicago
go.
To me,
I can't remember his name now, but the Black Fire Chief guy.
Oh, yeah?
His name's something... Eamon Walker, I think his name is.
Yeah, he's British.
He's British, and I only knew he was, right, because for seeing him, and you didn't know, and I was like...
cheaper?
It's cheap, isn't it?
Why are they cheaper though? The pound is worth more than the
yeah,
dollar.
but the
So
thing is, it's a lot of money
cheaper.
to us. You know, it's like if I became an actor
And they're
and
not
someone
known
offered
over
me like
here?
I don't know $3 million to do this role or whatever, you know, like whatever amount of money, and it's like, oh yeah, you know, an American actor would charge $5 million for that role.
Yeah.
But I just go, well, I'll do it for 3 because 3's quite good actually. You know,
Yeah.
it's a good salary.
It must be, yeah, but sometimes they're known in Britain. Like British people know who they are.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
we just don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So it must just be the fact that we don't know who they are that they get charged, that they can, you know, they don't make as much. Oh,
Yes,
nobody
yes.
knows who you are in America, so, you know.
Yeah, it is that. It's like, oh, you haven't got the star power. You haven't, you know, like Olivia Colman now. She's won an Oscar.
Yeah.
She can be able to charge her. You know,
Right,
she can name her price basically.
Yeah.
But
you
people know
and-
who she is in Britain because you know she was on Peep Show. She was on Broadchurch, and she's
Yeah.
been in other things. Now she's coming into The Crown.
But you know, unless you get really into the star of a show or the star of a movie or something, and like so into them that you're gonna bother to look them up, you don't know they're British if they're doing an American accent.
Yes, you don't know. I mean, people just don't know over here because it's just kind of like I don't know if it's an apathetic thing. You know, it's just like not really. They don't really care, and
then the last
just show me something.
the last main point. Well, I mean, I guess there's a couple. I'm trying to think. Are there any American stores in Britain that I was like, oh, that's an American store? I mean, I know in Britain they have TK Maxx, which
TK
over here is TJ Maxx, but the font is exactly the same. So we're like, okay, yeah, these stores are connected. Are they? I don't know. I can't remember if I've ever looked that up.
Yeah, they are. I think they just
They're connected.
they're connected, but they for
Okay.
some reason there was another TJ Maxx in Britain at the time they started opening, so they had to change their name.
And so then, like, Walmart owns Asda. So you go in Asda and it looks like Walmart.
It looks like Walmart, except everything's green instead of blue.
But they call it, I think they say rollbacks. don't
Rollback
they?
and
They have all the same kind of
yeah.
signage.
yeah, I
around
mean
the
it looks
stores.
almost exactly like Walmart. I remember when it was taken over by Walmart because I was working there at the time, and it was just. It was. I remember being shown around, and the guy.
So that's
His name was Colin,
Americanization.
and he's just like, oh, yeah, we're part of the Walmart family now. You know, part of the Walmart family.
Dominic's eyes are rolling back in his
Yeah.
head when he says that.
No, that's what he was like. He was just like, oh, it's part of the Walmart family now. He was all like annoyed about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just.
But that's Americanization.
That's Americanization.
That's what we're talking about here.
And you know, like
I can't think of any stores that we have that were taken over by a British brand and suddenly changed, and that you're like, oh, this is just like
in Britain, yeah.
You know what's funny though? I know I lost my train of thought there, but it made me think of. We also saw. I don't know if it was in that same article. In Britain, you guys have B&Q. Is that the name of it?
B&Q, yeah.
B&Q, which is, what does it stand for?
Oh, Block and Quail or something. It was two names. It was two
Oh.
names.
I was like, okay, that's
and
random.
it was Block and Quail. I think I'm not sure on that. It was
Okay,
two
yeah.
guys' names who set it up.
Okay.
But on like orders and stuff, they just started shortening it to B&Q,
Okay.
and the name stuck.
But it's
It's a hardware store. It's a DIY store. And
Right.
The Home Depot over here, exact same color scheme. And, you know, that someone, I think it was on the British Expats Forum or something, said, oh yeah, Home Depot, they just ripped off B&Q.
yeah.
And they were going to buy
it
it.
wasn't in the Quora? It wasn't.
Oh,
in
it was in Quora, it might be,
I
yeah.
think it might have been.
They just ripped off B&Q.
So that's a Britishization.
It's a Britishization, yeah, but of course
But we
Americans
don't know.
do.
Yeah, we have no idea. We have no
Whereas
idea.
in Britain, it's like, oh yeah, that's an Americanization. This is
Yeah.
very American now.
Because you go in B&Q, guys, and it is just like Home Depot. Everything looks just like Home
The same
Depot.
color
It's all
scheme.
orange. I think the
Font.
Yeah, the font, I think it's a big, like, orange box like that, like the Home Depot logo, the logo at the B&Q.
But we looked it up, and I think B&Q's
they have no connection.
They have no connection. The Home Depot was going to buy B&Q, but then pulled out because it's owned by another bigger brand in the UK, Kingfisher.
And they didn't want all the other.
They didn't want all the other ones.
Attached,
so B&Q and Home Depot, they're not related.
They have no affiliation.
No affiliation, but they look exactly alike. Because when I went in, the first time I went in, I was like, "This is exactly like B&Q. Is this?" And I thought B&Q had started because of the Home Depot, because usually that's what happens, you know.
Right.
But apparently B&Q was first. Home Depot came along a few years later.
So
weird.
Yeah. So you have that. You have things like that. I mean, that's more of like going this direction than the other direction. But in Britain, you see all of our fast food restaurants, which we've already talked about in a previous podcast.
Oh, yeah.
You don't see any British restaurants when you're walking down the street.
You see British-themed stuff
Yeah.
sometimes.
The
British
such and
pub.
such pub, or the
Sherlock.
Sherlock's.
I think I think that's closed now.
Yeah. Ye old whatever, you know.
Ye old pub.
Yeah.
Ye old English pub, and it's like, yeah. And they serve shepherd's pie maybe, and fish and chips, and that's it.
Yeah. But you just don't see any actual British anything when you're walking down the street in America, really. So then you go into the grocery store, and you go in Britain and you see Old El Paso and Paul Newman, and what are some other American brands? There's loads of them. There's loads of American brands in the grocery stores in Britain.
Kraft stuff.
Yeah, Kraft.
Philadelphia.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you just see them.
Which we call, cream cheese in Britain is called Philadelphia. I always call, because over here they say, gotta go to the store and get some cream cheese, and I say Philadelphia, and they're like, no, we're just gonna buy the store brand, and I'm just like, Philadelphia to me, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, there is store brand cream cheese in Britain. Well, they call it soft cheese, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it's called soft cheese in Britain. I'm not too sure about that, but it's not. I don't know if it is now, but it wasn't as good as Philadelphia. Philadelphia ruled the waves as far as I'm concerned.
But you see Oreo, you see all the...
Oh yeah, Oreos didn't come in for so long.
Yeah.
That came in my lifetime.
But you see all the kinds of brands of candies that you're used to, M&Ms and Skittles and whatever. You see all of that. You see...
and to be fair, right, that's slowly starting to come over here. Maltesers, for instance.
Yeah.
They've just,
that's true,
that's a bit, they're slowly starting to creep in, but, it's like, America...
Just here and there, though.
Here and there.
Like, if you walk through the aisles in the British grocery store, you're going to see a bunch of stuff you recognize. Yeah. It may not be named the same thing, like you mentioned Walkers, I think, earlier.
Yeah, that was a brand on itself until Lay's took it over.
Lay's took it over.
Frito-Lay, I should say.
But the brand, I mean, the logo, the Walker's logo looks exactly like Lay's potato chips. Yeah. So when you see it, you're
Lay's
like, oh,
everywhere
it's Lay's.
Else in the world. In Spain and everywhere else. It's Lay's potato chips.
But if you're looking for British brands in the grocery store here, you have to go to the international foods section.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, here and there's some things that are creeping in. Like, Maltesers. We see Biscoff now.
Well, that's
not British,
but yeah.
But it's popular in Britain.
Yeah.
That was a bad example. What else?
Well, we saw Nando's sauces randomly.
They had that for a while. So,
and Nando's isn't even in Texas, so I don't know why they're doing that.
And it's funny because I mean, obviously you're from Britain, but I've spent quite a bit of time in Britain too now. So when we do see it, I instantly see it. I notice it, and I'm like, oh, recognize this. Yeah. So these are the kinds of things we're talking about. Anything else you can think of? Any other ways that America rears its ugly head in Britain, but not vice versa?
Well, I think pretty much everywhere. It's rife. American influence is rife in Britain.
And I mean, yeah, there's British culture over here, but it's just not.
It's very
it's
contained.
Not in your face.
It's not in your face. It's like, oh, Harry Potter.
It's repackaged.
The Beatles,
a lot of the time.
You know, Downton Abbey, Doctor Who.
Yeah.
It's like
it's hidden. It's not mainstream.
It's British, and it's like it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whereas in America, Americanization, it's kind of like, oh, it's become it's so saturated in England now. You may as well be the 51st state.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, people say that, don't they?
Yeah.
I'm curious for our listeners to let us know if you can think of any other ways that Americanization is prevalent in Britain or vice versa.
Yeah.
Anything that we missed?
Yeah. Do you notice, like, I mean, obviously it's kind of like, you know, if you're from America, that everything is not going to be entirely the same. There's still going to be British culture everywhere. But is it like, oh, I wish they didn't have that. I wish, you know, I wish KFC wasn't here. I wish old El Paso wasn't on the shelves, you know.
I totally do. I don't want to go somewhere else and, like, it looks like home. I mean, I'm not one of those kind of travelers. I know there are those people.
Oh, yeah.
There
are those people.
They want the comforts of home. Like, they want familiar things. Well, yeah, we were just watching some YouTubers, and they came over here, and they were joking, but they went to a place that we have here in Austin called Full English. And they were like, Full English Cafe, yeah. And they were like, oh, we haven't had a proper cup of tea. We've been here for a week and we haven't had a proper cup of tea, and we're going crazy, you know, whatever. And they were like going over the top with it, you know. They were joking, but there are people like that, like, oh God, I can't get my tea in America, or I can't get my whatever in Britain, you know. But I'm so not that way. Like, I don't want to go to another part of the world and have it look like exactly like everything I'm familiar with, you know.
I mean, I live over here now, so I mean, there are things that I do obviously miss. We've talked about that in a previous podcast. Mm-hmm. But, you know, yeah, I mean, I'm quite happy to be like, oh yeah, you know, this is different, you know.
Yeah.
I don't want everything to be the same.
Right.
But you'd probably feel more at home in Britain with all the stuff that's there than familiar and stuff than I do over here.
Probably.
That's probably what it is, you know.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, you know, if there's American expats listening who live in Britain, do you feel more at home?
Yeah.
Give us a call on 083
555
555. You didn't even know what that was before. I had to tell you about that. So you go. I know all about American culture.
Oh my God, yeah. But yeah, let us know other British things that are popular in America that we maybe left off the list, or things that are popular in Britain that are American that we left off the list. Did I just say the same thing 2 times in a row?
Yes. But it doesn't matter.
Anyway, you know what I mean.
Anyway, yes. Tweet us, Facebook us.
Yeah, Instagram. Buy us a coffee if you like. Or
just... Yeah, buying us a coffee will help us take over the world, so
yes.
Every little helps.
Yes. Yeah, leave us a rating or a review. I don't know, review. Give us 5 stars wherever you can.
Give us 5 stars and say we're great and you want to hear more quality content like this.
Quality in quotation marks.
It's very quality.
Anyway, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.